Preparing to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Scheduling time to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Making a to-do list for the thing isn't doing the thing. Telling people you're going to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Messaging friends who may or may not be doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on yourself for not doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on other people who have done the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on the obstacles in the way of you doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading about how to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading this essay isn't doing the thing. The only thing that is doing the thing is doing the thing. And I love this insight that you can dress it up however you want. The work just needs doing. And you can fluff it and you can change it and you can talk about compounding. But ultimately, it comes down to sitting at the desk and answering the email, opening the Word document, recording the podcast. And one of the things that I've found is a really great hack for me, I would have no success as a YouTuber that I've had being a podcaster because I work well when I have someone else in front of me. Like, I would clean my room at home if mum came and sat and like just watch or talk to me, right? Because I just didn't want to fucking do something that sucked on my own. Being a YouTuber and staring down the lens, hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to fucking do whatever we're going to do. I really, really struggle with that. Sitting down with someone else in front of me, that makes it easy. So there are ways that doing the thing can become more easy, but ultimately the work just needs doing.
Really highlights the discipline equation, but it also, all of those things in that essay really pointed at procrastination, and there was hints of trying to realign one's cognitive dissonance by announcing to the world that you are something that, you know, is not consistent with your actions. But one of the things that I really got from that was people think we're motivated by pleasure. And when I sat with Nir Eyal, who wrote the book on distraction and procrastination and why people do it, one of the really key messages I took away was that we're actually motivated by the avoidance of discomfort. And so I quizzed him on it. I was like, really? Okay, so sex. He goes, yeah, horniness is a form of discomfort. So you're motivated to relieve yourself of the horniness. And if you look at any aspect of your life, when you're procrastinating cleaning the house, or you're procrastinating doing the essay, so you end up cleaning the house, it's because that's the path of less discomfort. We're motivated by the avoidance of discomfort. This is really useful because if you want to understand why you're procrastinating in some area of your life, the most important question is heightening your self-awareness on the thing that's causing the discomfort. Because in most areas where we procrastinate, we have no idea. We're just avoiding it.
Do you ever think about the weird shit that you do when you're procrastinating from the thing you're supposed to do? Yeah. Like, I have an essay or an email to write that I don't want to write. I need to reply to someone and it's an awkward conversation or something like that. And guess what? Now my cupboard sources are perfectly aligned.
Yeah.
Like, you will find the most inventive ways to not do the thing.
I noticed this about myself. I flew to Bali to write my latest book. And as I was in the jungle, I noticed this pattern where every time I picked up my phone, like just needlessly, was because I was at a hard point in the book.
Yeah.
So every single time I'd get to a point and I was trying to summarize it or find some research to back it up. Within 30 seconds, as if I'm possessed by this puppet master above me.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone, start swiping, and I'm on Instagram. And I go, fuck, of course, I'm avoiding the discomfort. And it's so important to get clear on that because you need to understand the forces that are pulling and pushing you. And then you can say to yourself, okay, why am I avoiding this chapter? What is it? Well, I don't feel researched enough on this subject matter. Okay, well, I'm going to step away from the computer and I'm going to read that book or watch that YouTube video, as opposed to just banging my head against this Word document. You can, if you become aware of the discomfort, you can counteract it. But if you're not aware of it, it's an object you just can't hit. So that changed my life, that question. What is the psychological discomfort I'm avoiding right now?
You must make pressure your privilege. So pressure is a privilege is on a lot of t-shirts by Chris Bumstead, who is the current Mr. Olympia classic physique champion. He was on the podcast a little while ago. He made t-shirts with pressure is your privilege on it. Turns out that one of my best friends in Austin, his godmother first came up with that.
The tennis player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sued Chris.
No.
And I was like, oh.
Yeah, her book is called Pressure is a Privilege.
This is awkward.
Yeah.
That the guy and it was the first question I asked him. And then I spoke to Sky and I was like, has this recreated some trauma inside of the family? Is Thanksgiving dinner going to be ruined because I brought it back up again? But yeah, you must make pressure your privilege. Why?
If you look at any aspect of our lives where we experience growth, it's under pressure. There's an old cliche adage about how diamonds are made, which I think, although is cliche, speaks to this in such profundity. And even when we think about the comfort crisis we're living in and all of the health outcomes and predicaments that we're facing through our obsessive pursuit of comfort, and how the body has started to break down, and we've got all of these mismatched diseases, they call it, where the world we're living in and the way we behave within it isn't aligned to who we are. It's the avoidance of pressure. And it goes back to what you said earlier about avoiding that difficult conversation or that difficult piece of work. If there is an antithesis to pressure, it is, in my mind, it is comfort. It is ease. And that means that today is great and tomorrow is bad. And anyone that has the foresight to move that discomfort and that pressure into the current moment yields much greater returns in terms of happiness and health in the long term. And in the book, I go through tons of examples from health, from sports to Everest climbers who understand, and that famous tennis player who was the best in the world, and I still think she is the best female tennis player in the world. It was her mantra. It was that, what is your relationship with difficulty? And everybody, including people in my family who have a adverse reaction to difficulty, just defer it into the future in a bigger way. It compounds against them to make their future harder than their present. So everyone's relationship with difficulty, whether it's difficult conversations or difficult workouts or difficult physical, psychological exertion, those individuals, I think, are setting themselves up for a brighter future.
Well, how do you deal with the discomfort that comes along with pressure, though, right? You have, okay, the fact that I have pressure means that I care about something. It means that it's fulfilling to me. There are people that go through their entire life and don't ever have anything that approximates like importance, right? Yeah. And I have it. But the felt sense of pressure isn't that. The felt sense is overwhelm and chaos and concern. And
there's a story below those words you've just used that really is the problem. It's, I'm not good enough. I'm going to be kicked out of the tribe. I'm different. All of those things, right? That's the base layer. The interpretation, you're right. There's a story we tell ourselves about our pressure, which determines how we experience the pressure. If you look at that famous TED talk on stress and pressure, what they found out is that stress and pressure don't actually kill people unless you believe it will. You have a negative interpretation of your pressure and your stress. Then it shows up in your physiological response. You get more diseases. But in that famous TED talk, which I think has like 30 million views, she found out that pressure in itself isn't the problem. It's the story we tell ourselves about our pressure that causes us to be unhealthy. And we all have different stories about our pressure. And if your story is that it is X, Y, and Z, it's going to get me kicked out of the tribe, it's going to expose myself for not being good enough. If your story about difficult situations is I'm an imposter versus this is a growth moment, not only are you going to show up worse, you're going to perform worse, and the physiological impact and psychological impact is going to be detrimental. And that's what this whole argument about imposter syndrome is so confusing to me, because if I asked anybody, would you like a life where you were never outside of where you never did anything that challenged you or pushed you? Would you choose that? No. So why are you complaining about your life being full of that? I think anyone who has a healthy relationship with pressure goes in search of continual imposter syndrome. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and they would be dismayed at a life without it, without that pressure and feeling out of your depth.
Well, the presumption would be that you're never doing anything you haven't done before, right? There are people that have imposter syndrome, which I call imposter adaptation, which is your imposter syndrome persists despite the fact that you've disproven it at this very thing. It would be like every single time that you did a podcast, you being adamant it was going to be terrible and you were going to fluff your words and shit yourself and say something racist, right? It would be like, everything's going to go wrong, despite the fact that you've got 300, 400 fucking bits of proof that that's not the case. Mm-hmm. But imposter syndrome should show up in someone who's healthily moving forward into new areas that they haven't been in before. Like, imposter syndrome largely is a very realistic assessment of, wow, I have no proof that I can do the thing that I'm trying to do. Like, what did you expect? Do you have blind faith? And over time, what you end up with, what really good, robust confidence is when analogous situations start to bleed into other ones. You spent a lot of time during Social Chain doing onstage speaking, which presumably gave you even just a tiny little bit of a base that, podcasting's kind of not a million miles away from being on stage, and being on YouTube's not a million miles away from being on stage. Okay, so it starts to sort of bleed into these other things. And that's when it's really cool. And that's when you get real compounding of confidence.
Confidence,
right?
Evidence.
Yes.
It's what we said earlier.
Talking about criticism, you've moved from... We'll get back to talking to Stephen in 1 minute, but first I need to tell you about Epidemic Sound. If you have ever tried to put sound effects or music behind any video, you will know just how hard it is to do. Epidemic Sound has over 90,000 sound effects plus a vast music library that will avoid any copyright concerns. Your videos are not going to get demonetized or infringe on someone's copyright, which happens all the time if you're not using a professional library. All of their tracks are professionally produced by a diverse collection of artists and are exclusive to the platform. If you've ever been wondering how your favorite creators take their videos to the next level, a lot of it comes with sound design, and that is the sound library selection they have access to. So many of them are using Epidemic Sound, and you can join them for free for 30 days by clicking the link in the description below or going to share.epidemicsound.com/modernwisdom. And if you cancel within that 30 days, you can still keep all of the sounds that you've used during your trial period. That's share.epidemicsound.com/modernwisdom. If you enjoyed that clip with Stephen, then press here for the full-length podcast. Go on, press it.